on Monday, January 8th. If you'll join me with the pledge to start the meeting. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and I'll do roll call attendance.
Bartlett.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
Cook.
Here.
Lyle.
Here.
M. Cortade.
Here.
Walters. And Friend.
Here, thank you. You notice I'll talk a little faster because I know that Michigan is playing and a lot of people want to get home. All right, so review of conflict of interest. Does anybody say anything that they have a conflict with on the agenda? Nope, okay, we'll move forward to approval of the agenda. Is there approval of the agenda? Motion?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support. Motion by Bartlett and support by Walters to approve the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed by no? The motion passes, and that's our agenda. We do have public comment. We do have a limited number of people here, so we'll forego reading any rules or guidelines to the public comment and just ask anybody with public comment to feel free to come up, stand up to the podium, introduce themselves, and offer us your perspective. Okay, seeing none, you get about 15 seconds to make that clear tonight. Let's see, we'll move on to correspondence and reports. There are some items in there in particular. You do have the planning annual report, and you also have the fourth quarter for East Bay Ambulance in there as well. Let's see, on the consent agenda, we've got 3 sets of minutes, the 11th, the 19th, and the 27th, and you have gotten all of those in advance. And then we do not have any budget adjustments, and we do have one other item under other items, which is the VC3 cloud upgrade quote that we saw during the budget process. Would anybody like any of those items removed?
Do you want me to read the whole thing, or?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Does everyone know what they're voting on here? All right. Does anyone want any items removed? Okay. Anybody from the audience would like any item removed from the consent calendar? Okay, we'll bring that back for a motion. Is there a motion offered?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda of January 8, 2024.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Walters, second by M. Cortade. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Ann?
Walters.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
Yes.
Lyle.
No.
Cook.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes. Okay, we will move on to business before the Township Board. We have Grand Traverse County here. Daryl, thanks for being here, especially given that you're sporting a cane there that's helping you along.
It's just to fight off admirers.
Okay. Well, so what's been going on?
Well, Santa Claus brought me a new hip, so apologize for
There you go.
being a little slow. Another commissioner, Henschel, has sends his regrets. He is ill tonight, so you got the least broken of the two of us. I'll be quick because there's a football game. I don't have an
Good.
over-under for you.
You're good.
This last end of the year, the county realized that there was a work-from-home policy that varied by department within the county. So we've all probably had our own frustrations with federal and state employees that don't seem to be there. They're working from home, takes a while to get back. We found out within the county, it depended on what department you work for, of what your policy was for work from home, not work from home, the reasons you were allowed. So we decided that we're going to take that up to the HR level for the county. So there's one person in one department that makes that decision. They came up with a policy, and you are allowed to work from home with reason. It could be that you have a sick child, it could be you have a washer and dryer being delivered or something like that. But the policy, you have to, you make that application. There's a quick application process too, but you have to state on there where you're going to be, what address, what phone number, at what time. So you can't just say, well, I've got a sick kid and I'm going to be gone. If you have to go to the doctor, you put that in there. But it's tried to tighten that up so that if you're in one department, you're in another department, you're in a third department, you all have the same policy in place. So we figured that was, we were surprised to see how many people were still thinking they could work from home on a regular basis or whatever, and so unless there was a need to, we wanted you back in the office, so. I figured that was fair for everybody. Grand Service Pavilions, today, and I didn't get confirmation of this, we were supposed to get $6.8 million back from the feds. It's a long story of how that happened. You don't want to be in the healthcare business. They had to rebuild everything going back for 3-4 years. That's been done. We got the approval back in October, November. Then it goes in somebody else's desk and they decide, even though it's been approved, when they're going to pay it. It was supposed to come today. Then with the state money that's going to come, that's going to be over $10 million. But that 6.8 that came today makes the county whole. More, that, and equally important, is going forward, and I'm on the 3-person committee that's working with the Grand Traverse Pavilions to make sure we have an ongoing business model that works. It's been a very good relationship. It's not been adversarial. It's been very cooperative. There is a new executive hired starting in January sometime coming up. I don't want to try to say Mr. Hadamaki's name, the interim guy. I'll say it wrong, but he's willing to stay and help with as the new person gets involved. But the business model, we've put together a kind of it's like the green, red, and yellow sheet of paper that has your metrics. And so we put together that, and we're watching that on a daily basis. And the plans looking forward are very conservative, and they pay the bills at 145 residents. It's an interesting business. You lose 12 residents per month. Fortunately, in most cases, that's good because it's somebody who was in there for rehab, or they broke a hip or something, and they're moving on to the next better step. But anyway, there's a lot of turnover. So they're working with Munson, who has a lot of potential patients. We're working with them. We're recruiting, and I think there's a pretty good sustainable model moving forward. And we put some things in place so that we don't get blindsided like what happened to us in August. We find out that we've been paying a lot of bills for them. The other thing that made the paper, the headline in the paper was absolutely 100% wrong. It said that the Grand Traverse County was going to require loyalty pledges from people, from citizens that were serving on citizen committees. That's exactly the opposite of what we're trying to do. We had committees that we appoint citizens to that they report and are put there by the Board of Commissioners, and then they were being asked to sign a loyalty pledge to that organization. And so we said that can't happen. We put a stop to that. The money that these boards are spending is public taxpayer money, and the taxpayer needs to have a hook through somebody toward those actions on those boards. That's the Board of Commissioners. We're elected. The appointed people are not. So if you're appointed to a citizen board, you really, you work at the request of the Board of Commissioners to serve, to help that organization, but you're also there to, on behalf of the taxpayer, to make sure that the taxes and the monies are being spent judiciously and properly, and your loyalty is not to that organization. Really, your loyalty is back to the taxpayers through the Board of Commissioners. So we found out about that, so we put it into that. The article that was written was factually correct. The headline was wrong. There's an ongoing issue with the beta, which we're working through. I think we'll get there. Bus service is not going to be affected. Northern Lakes Community Mental Health Board is departing from the Carver model, which I won't get into what that is, but the board is going to be taking a more active role. We're working very hard to have better mental health services in our community. Northern Lakes Community Mental Health, as you know, is a 6-county organization, and the Carver model has created a lot of problems and a lot of complaints, and it is administration heavy on the authority to do things. So they're getting away from that. The Traverse City Airport, TBC, had kind of a big deal in December. There was a ribbon cutting for the new ILS, which ILS is the system as you're coming in. In other words, if your windshield was blacked out, fog, rain, snow, tonight, from about 7 miles out is the glide path coming in to the runway. Now, the main runway in 2810, at the one side, if you come in toward the Garfield side, there was ILS. It's been there for a long time. It's a very, very old system. There's some newer systems, but the airlines, everybody else is still using the ILS system because it works very well. It's less expensive, doesn't fail. It's kind of it's right there and it works. Problem is most of our storms come out of the west, so coming in from the east, you need an ILS system there too. It's been 12 years they've been working to get this ILS system. We all know the story where you leave Chicago or Detroit, you fly over Traverse City, they can't land, they fly back down Detroit, land you, and it's 12 o'clock at night, and you're stuck. So that happens about 100 times a year, so 100 planes per year. This ILS will allow them to come in during storms, during visibility issues, during fog, and this is the season for that. It's already prevented flights from having to turn around and go back home. So pretty big deal. Senator Peters was here, Congressman Bergman sent a video, there's a lot of FAA people here, but kind of big news. This week we're having a work session study on pilot, the payment in lieu of taxes. The committee, there was a subcommittee that met on that. I was not a part of that. They met today, and they're recommending to the board that all projects that are presented to the county must also be presented to the township, and to get permission and feedback from both township and county before they're approved. In other words, that they're recommending, hasn't been voted on by the full board yet. But I kind of push for this too, is that the county can't allow a pilot in East Bay Township, for example, without East Bay Township also having purview and having an opinion in on there. And I had proposed going so far as that I would start with the local, like the township, the village, or the city, and then come to the county. Because if you guys are not in favor of it, I'm not sure that the county should then step over. So we'll have some discussion about that this week. There's not going to be a decision made, but I'd welcome the feedback from anyone here. I'm going to be talking to the supervisors in my district of their thoughts on that and what I can kind of bring to that meeting for discussion points. But the big one right now is breakwater and another proposed new one that Traverse City has approved. It's going to cost the county about $68,000, but it'll bring in, I think it's 190 workforce rent-based housing at the breakwater, and the one they're going to build kind of behind the candle factory. It's not low income, it's workforce housing. So teachers, nurses, firefighters, I don't know, like even Metro Fire, one of the big problems they have, guys are driving 2 hours away, they live in north of Gator or something. This will provide some housing units, some housing relief for that, and we know that there are going to be more requests for that. We had a couple options. We could ignore it, we could approve all, we could deny all, or we could bring it in front of the board. So I do actually want to talk to anyone who has some thoughts and opinions on that before we make our final decision. The last thing I want to say is GoRep came up at our last meeting last week. Where it is right now, the county is not taking a position yet. It's a fantastic opportunity. 20 years from now, if we don't do something now, it probably won't be there. Somebody else will pick the whole thing up, or it'll be split up. When something like that becomes available, we need to look at it. Parks and Rec is really where it's sitting right now. They're looking at a plan that they could put in place how to make that work, what makes sense with that property. And then, so Rotary had talked about a year, and then they kind of stepped up where you saw they listed it. They kind of wanted 30 days. We couldn't make a decision in 30 days. It wouldn't be prudent. So they listed it for $3.25 million. we're doing our best work to kind of look at a plan to see what makes sense. I'll probably be talking to you, Beth, and maybe even coming back to this board with some thoughts and some things that we've gone through. So it's just, as we all know, it's an incredible resource. I think we're silly not to do a good, hard look at it. And if we were to say no and walk away from it, we need to be sure that was what we needed to do.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you very much. Very informative. Any questions for
Happy New Year, by the way.
Daryl? I went to go say Bill real quickly because. Any questions for, any questions for Daryl? Thanks a lot.
Happy to have you here.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Oh. I didn't hear what you said. Come on.
said-
Bill,
He called you Bill.
thanks for being here, Daryl. Appreciate it.
And I'm not going to stay because these kind of chairs are
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
comfortable for me.
And there might be a game you want to watch tonight, too. I don't know.
Watch with an ice cream. So.
There you go. There you go. Take care and thank you. Okay, let's see, with that, financial review and audit dates, you do have a financial report in front of you, and I'll just quickly hit super high level things because it's a little bit early to be able to tell, but just in taking a look at things, you're expecting that cable franchise agreement to end up at about 175 for the revenue, and the state revenue sharing at about 1.29 million. So we'll be seeing that revenue pop up about 250,000. Overall, it'll be down from that budget amount by about 150, but you can see we had quite a bit of grant awards in there as well that won't hit at this cycle. So with that, all of the departments are looking pretty good, and just taking a look at what I feel will be left with all of the departments, we'll probably add about another 300,000 to expenses roughly, dropping our available balance down from that 883 to 575. What that will end up being when you have the additional revenue and bring up those expenditures. We had a planned use of fund balance in here for 826,000, and our actual use of fund balance will be about 400,000. So it'll be about half of what we planned. So we can go through that in more detail as we move through the final weeks of, closing out the 2023 fiscal year. And let's see, in taking a look real quick at the 206, 7, and 10 budgets, which are emergency services, really the 207, which is the police fund, will be probably about right where we expected it to be. With the ambulance, we had intended to use about 91,000 in fund balance. But we have some, earned interest that's up there, some run revenues and so forth that are up there. So we'll probably look at really not utilizing any fund balance. We should be right at that break-even point. So we might just use a hair, or we might even put some into fund balance, but probably right about that break-even point. With that, as I mentioned, as we go through the final weeks of the 2023 financial invoices and getting those done, we have scheduled our audit prep with our accountant for March 25th, and our audit is scheduled for April 15th with Raymond. And so we'll be moving forward on that. Does anyone have any questions? I know that's kind of a fast overview. If there's anything that you have, I can certainly take a look into it and let you know. And you're also welcome to just follow up with me independent from the meeting as well. Our engineering, I talked with Brian Souza. We won't have anyone here tonight. Where they're working on Wade trim projects, working with some developers on a couple different issues in general. They are doing a plan for Jens Park that they had previously done for the Parks Commission, that you recall that we could not construct because the water level rose. And now that it's down, they've dusted that off. And it's changed so much there that in fact, there's not even an eagle permit that's required. We had to get an eagle permit last time, and they were fine with the plan, but again, the water level. And this time they said, you're outside of where you need a permit for. So the plan still remains the same though. And Parks Commission will be taking a look at those final parts of that. But, so they're working on that. They're finishing up Arbutus, working right now with the Road Commission, you may have heard, through the Parks Commission did hear the parking lot. They had some differences that they didn't intend, and they were right at where the handicap parking lot was, so they were gonna have to cut back in 10 feet of that parking lot. Well, if you're cutting back in 10 feet all the way across, and it's an old parking lot anyway, the recommendation was, and I forget what the motion exactly was with the Parks Commission, but I believe it was to support looking at doing the full parking lot over. So, of course, we were very lucky that Joe Slanecki, who works with the who previously worked with the Road Commission, is now with Wade Trim. So he's working with them, trying to get maybe some improved ditching culvert there to try to take care of that road wash as best that can be from that point. So they're still working on that right now, so we don't have anything back yet as far as a change in scope or anything like that. Let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything else with the engineering. I don't think so. I think we kind of covered it with those projects. So then we'll, and if you have anything specific with any engineer projects that you're wondering about, feel free to, let me know, and I will get that caught up. I know one of the popular questions we get is on developments, on why this one's taking so long or that one's taking so long in construction. And of course, we have very little to no control over the actual time it takes them to construct things. So that's always kind of a tough one. But with that, we will move on to planning and zoning. And first on our agenda, we have the zoning amendment 5-23 for overnight medical facilities. And so Claire Carner, our Director of Planning and Zoning, is here to go over that with us. Hi, Claire, how are you?
Good evening. I'm doing good, thanks. Okay, so yeah, we've got two zoning amendments, and the first one is for the overnight medical facilities. So there was an applicant who submitted the application for this text amendment, interested in allowing overnight medical use in the industrial district. He is looking to open a mental health facility with a possibility of a substance abuse clinic in the future within the Peninsula Business Park. This is the same location that the daycare, that there is interest on the daycare property. There was a 31-county community health needs assessment conducted in 2022 for Northern Michigan. It identified a huge gap in available mental health treatment services across all age groups. So currently, our zoning ordinance allows for professional and business offices, including medical and dental, provided that they're not for overnight use. So this zoning amendment basically is to add a definition of rehabilitation center, allow it by use in the industrial park, and with the understanding that as we rewrite the zoning ordinance, we have new definitions that we're looking at. So in the future, the rehabilitation center may be appropriate through special land use permit, for example, in professional office. So we're going to take a closer look at, are there other districts where some of these might be appropriate? We're also adding assisted living facility along with nursing home. So taking a more holistic look at mental health facilities, but for now, the recommendation for simplicity's sake is to allow this rehabilitation center by right in the industrial park.
Okay, and this was passed unanimously by the Planning Commission, I see. And Mindy, did you have anything to add to this?
No, we just talked about the fact that, you know, we have such a shortage in northern Michigan, and the applicant was discussing very specifically how difficult it is to get a patient into care when they are at their greatest need. And in northern Michigan, it's darn near impossible. And we looked at this facility very specifically and the neighbors around it, and we just felt that it was a good fit.
All right, very good, thank you. Let's see, do you have anything else to cover before questions? Okay, does anyone on the board have any questions for Claire or for Mindy?
So the public hearing was held at the planning level, so that we just need to make a decision? That's all I wanted to make sure is that we had our Ts crossed and Is dotted.
Yep. Are there questions or?
The question I
Sure.
have is this tied in any way with adult foster care home or whatever it's called over on Indian Trail?
It's separate business operations. Yeah, and the definitions, two separate categories.
Okay, but this one, a person would be able to stay at this. Are they still able to stay at the other one, or is that going to relieve that? Because I know there was a real concern from some of the neighbors about that, and I just wondered if this was going to hopefully eliminate that problem, or nothing to do with it?
Yeah, not to my knowledge.
That one wouldn't really impact the other necessarily.
Okay.
So I'm happy to make a motion.
Okay,
I make a motion to approve the zoning amendment 5-23 overnight medical facilities.
is there support? Okay. Is there questions for the
Yeah,
discussion?
just real quick, and I'm not real familiar with the ins and outs of, these types of facilities, but is there a difference between long-term and short-term stays in these types of facilities? I mean, I know there's a need, sounds like from what Mindy was saying, there's a need for the immediate short-term, but could this also be kind of a long-term? Is there any limitations on how long
Yeah,
someone can be there?
In our ordinance, the definition, we don't have a limitation. I think it is generally, short to moderate term,
Okay.
but,
Probably insurance may limit that as well, because insurance companies will only accommodate different things for so long.
Sure. Okay.
Additional questions? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Ann?
Escorted.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes. All right, very good, thank you. We will move on to the next item, which is the zoning amendment 6-23, the MDR density. Claire, go ahead.
okay. So this was precipitated by an applicant, Live Communities, who has joined us this evening. They are interested in developing the site of the former Brigantine, where that didn't move forward. So it's zoned moderate density residential, and this would be a zoning text amendment to increase the maximum dwelling units per acre from 5 units per acre to 8 units per acre. So the Planning Commission reviewed the request at their regular meeting in November, and they held a public hearing in December. Unanimously recommended the amendment for approval. So the areas of the township that are currently zoned MDR, moderate density residential, are identified on our future land use map as medium to high density. So the recently adopted master plan identifies those areas of having up to 8 units per acre for density. Even looking back at the 2015 master plan, the township identified those areas as up to 8 dwelling units per acre. I did want to note that we're changing the density, that this would effectively change the density. It wouldn't change any of the types of homes that are permitted. It would still be multifamily that's currently permitted. With this amendment change, it would also be permitted. The draft zoning ordinance rewrite right now, as it stands, is for 8 units per acre, reflective of our master plan. So I guess in effect, this is kind of moving quicker than we otherwise would have with the zoning ordinance rewrite, because we have an applicant looking to move forward with the project, but it's in line with the direction that the township and the zoning ordinance subcommittee has been going. And I know Matt serves on that subcommittee, so if you want to, you're welcome to add anything too.
Well, not specifically to this, but anywhere in this day and age that we can increase density, especially north of Hammond Road, I think is well advised. There's such a need out there, so.
Okay, very good, thank you. Mindy, did you have anything to add as well? Okay, are there any questions from anybody? Go ahead.
Yeah, how many units were planned under the Brigantine?
I think it was just shy of 200. I
Okay.
want to say it was like 190.
Okay. So what would this plan generate?
How many units?
Yeah, do you know?
About 38 acres? Okay. So 38 times 8.
Okay.
Math time.
$300.
Yeah.
Okay, any additional questions or follow-up questions?
I'll make a motion to approve zoning amendment 6-23, medium density residential density.
Support.
Okay. Walters has made the motion and Escortate supports. Any further discussion? And we'll do a roll call vote.
Walters?
Yes.
Escorted?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
Lyle?
Yes.
Cook?
No.
Friend?
Yes.
Did I call M. Cortade?
No, but yes.
I'm missing someone that wasn't.
Okay, for clarification, you voted yes, though?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Claire, next on the agenda, we have Michigan Healthy Climate Corps.
So, in December, the township was notified that the township was awarded a My Healthy Climate Corps position. This is a position, it's a new position. It's supported by EGLE, which is the Department of Energy, Great Lakes, or Environment, Great Lakes and Energy Office through the state, former DEQ, and the Michigan Community Service Commission. And it's with the goal of helping to advance the My Healthy Climate Plan, which was adopted for the state of Michigan in 2022. So there's 30 of these AmeriCorps members across the state of Michigan. A number of local organizations also received a placement in addition to East Bay Township, but it's a 9-month service period. It begins in March of 2024. The individual will assist East Bay Township with expanding non-motorized and transit options in the township, assist homeowners and businesses accessing grants and funding to support energy efficiency upgrades, solar panels, and electric charging stations, assist with the tree inventory and updated stormwater ordinance with green infrastructure provisions, and assist with composting and waste diversion at the new community garden. So those are some of the projects that we're looking at. They would be working supervised by the Director of Planning and Zoning, by myself, but would work closely with the Planning and Zoning Department, with the Township Supervisor. And I think a cool part of this is that they would have a lot of resources that they'd be able to bring to the township and to the community members. They have some kind of cool, innovative training opportunities. The position is primarily funded through grants, but it requires a local match of $8,400.
And so this position is very, very similar to the CEDAM Fellowship, which the township was awarded. A matter of fact, when Eagle came out with this program, which this is the first year that they're doing it, it was so similar in context and similarity that they have contracted with CEDAM to administer this program for them in alignment with the fellowship, because it's very similar. Are there questions for Claire? Or questions for our fellow who is here with us too?
You know, I got an email from somebody from the watershed, and they're talking about supporting this because of the tree canopy is what this is gonna be, basically.
That's, yeah, that's one component that we're looking at,
Okay.
one of the, like, 4 projects, and that was kind of a high priority. We worked with our tree preservation subcommittee. We're looking to get some standards in the zoning ordinance to better protect our trees, but we need to do a more intensive inventory of the trees throughout the township to help inform kind of our protections so that they're legally defensible. So it's something we've been working toward for a while and are looking for this fellow to help support that effort.
Okay, well, you know, going back, I remember them talking about down on the Miracle Mile, some big pine trees or something they wanted to protect from being cut. And I guess I didn't understand the whole concept of the tree canopy. Is there something in short term you can explain, so maybe I can get my arms around it?
So, I think we're interested in trees in a number of different ways. Some is kind of like the species, the health. We're looking for diversity of species, looking for native species. For the tree canopy coverage specifically, if we have more, if we have data on kind of township-wide what the percentage of tree canopy is by zoning district, then we're better set up to be able to put some requirements in the zoning district. You know, for example, moderate density residential shall have X percentage tree canopy cover. So then that kind of sets the township up where we say we're wanting to protect and enhance our existing tree canopy by inventorying and then putting some regulations in place to preserve that tree canopy. And so a new developer could either protect the existing tree canopy, which is what's desirable, or, you know, remove trees, but then reestablish a certain percentage. So the goal is really trying to protect what we have while still understanding that development, you know, requires removal of trees.
Claire, would this help? Can I follow up with a question?
Did I answer your question?
More or less, yes.
Okay.
You know, when I thought about it after I read this in the packet, I got thinking, other than the type of tree, the canopy cover, I would thought that we do a flyover every couple, 3 years. I would think that somebody has got some way of looking at that and coming up with a amount of tree coverage that they have, and it's on every lot. So I guess I wasn't sure why we would hire somebody to go out and count them when we already got
Yeah.
the information.
We would use like LiDAR data to do the canopy, and then they would help us kind of distill the information into what our zoning standards look like and what are some of the best practices.
How would this impact a development where you have somebody come and clear cut a property and then come to you for development? And we've had that happen before and even in recent history. I mean, down the road,
Yeah,
should this be
so
something like that
We're
implemented?
looking, I mean, we've been looking at some different opportunities, some as incentives for protecting the trees. We, you know, initially, we're looking at a tree protection ordinance that actually fine developers for removing trees, but there's some challenges with the kind of legality of that. So if, you know, if there was a certain district that required a certain percentage tree canopy cover, then they'd be required to plant trees on site as a part of their development if they had removed all their trees.
Okay, thank you.
Drawback, you know, and I'm for the trees, don't get me wrong, but I see developers go in and clear cut, and, yeah, they violate the ordinance, so they have to plant so many trees. Anybody realize how long a tree takes to grow, where it could be a canopy? I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking 30, 40 years,
Yeah.
or like you get in maples or oaks.
Well, but they don't violate the ordinance when they do that. I mean, there's not an ordinance. When they come in, they clear cut like that.
Well, if they clear cut them, or even if they didn't clear cut, they cut a lot more trees than they should have. And then the township says, okay, you gotta plant a certain number of trees. Well, to get those trees to grow, none of us are gonna still be around, believe me.
Yeah. And
That's,
that's what we're trying to figure out, how to
how to
Well, I
stop
thought maybe you
or
had it figured
prevent.
out, that was,
No,
but that's my concern with it all.
Yeah, yeah.
Other questions regarding this position?
I did. So, just so I understand, so this person is not, this individual is not identified yet, right?
Right, they,
They, Eagle will hire
the
based on,
township will hire.
okay,
Um,
okay.
People will be able, have the opportunity to apply for any of the 30 open positions, so they would select which communities they want to work in.
Okay.
Similar to the process that we went through with the CEDM fellow. So the applications are open right now. We haven't advertised it yet until we get formal approval by the township board. So we'll start advertising locally, assuming that if there's approval.
Okay.
And they are not a township employee, just as our fellow is not a township employee. They are employed through CEDM.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll report to your department, and, you know, you'll have a good handle on what they're doing, but 9 months is not really that long. You know, I guess I would like to see, you know, some deliverables, you know, from, at the end of that term, you know, something, as opposed to, you know, some of the vagueness of helping with this and helping with that, you know, something actual deliverable that they can step away from, and we have something kind of completed to hold on to.
That's a really good point. And I think these are kind of our pie in the sky ideas. So I
Yeah,
do think
I get
I appreciate that comment, because I think, yeah, having a few tangible things is important.
And it was a very quick turnaround to get the application
Oh, yeah,
in.
sure.
And
From when we
so-
found out about it, when the deadline was, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
How does this fit in with our current fellow? I mean, as far as
Timing?
timing? Are
So
they
this
both-
begins in March, and Sam's position goes until August. So there'll be a little
6
bit of an
months
overlap.
overlap.
Yeah.
One of the things, spatial requirements, right, from within the office. So one of the things, because of how Sam's fellowship worked out, previously, it was fine, so I didn't go ahead with this, but I did have a office supply, you know, furniture, office supply company come in and take a look at the copy room, and we can put in the temp walls that we have similar to the ones that already exist, and put 2 desks back in through there, so it would take that space and divide it in about a third, 2/3, maybe closer to half, 40/60, something like that, and has the partitioned wall on either side with the door in the middle. You go through, and then back in front of those windows, there's a desk on each side there. And if memory serves me, I think that ran about $6,500 or something like that. So that would be something that we would take a look at doing, so that we would have the space. And that would also be space then too when we have the accountant come in and so forth.
One other question, this individual that, if this passes and go through, are we gonna have to give them benefits too? No benefits whatsoever?
Nope, they're CEDM employees.
Yeah, they'll receive an education stipend too at the end of their service that can go towards college, and so it's a,
The state pays that though?
yeah, so it's similar to like other AmeriCorps positions.
Just one idea kind of off the top of my head, and I don't know how this job description and the tasks that are kind of defined here kind of set in stone, but I think it would be a benefit to the community to, you know, basically build out the township website that brings a lot of this information, relevant information, some past information regarding, you know, some of the tree canopy information, or local utility rebates or incentives associated with, you know, energy efficiency improvements, kind of pull that into a, you know, kind of a hub or something on the township website. That would be something, you know, a project could probably be completed in 9 months that
Yeah,
would
that's a great idea.
stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear you mention that, because we've talked about, in that workspace that I'm talking about in that copy areas, is potentially having a communications person who can work not on a full-time basis, but on a contractor or partial basis to help do that, to help do website information, that sort of thing. That can also be a piece and component of the CEDM grants as well. Is there a motion or questions?
so, We don't have this in the budget yet.
We do not. We would have, as you've seen from the overview of last year's and knowing our financial position in the fiscal year 2024, we would have sufficient funds to undertake this, as well as to provide that personnel space in that copy area too.
Okay. I would make a motion to approve the, is it My Health or is it Michigan Health? My Health, Healthy Climate Corp. At East Bay Township and allocate the 8,400 plus 2,000 towards the position.
Is there support?
Support.
Motion by Bartlett and support by Walters. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed by no?
No,
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote, Ann.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
Escorted,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Lyle,
Yes.
M. Cortez,
no.
Friend.
Yes. All right, thank you very much. I'll get that information together too on those workspaces and bring those back maybe in February to you. If it's above my purchasing threshold, we'll do that. Let's see. Now we will go on to TART Trail, 3 Mile Trail Transportation. We have, of course, Claire Carner is involved with that, and then Julie Clark and Elizabeth Calcat, both of TART. Come on up and join us.
Okay, I'll just give a quick introduction and then hand it over. So I think since you last received an update, you approved the contract with OHM. We've made considerable progress. On the design engineering, we're at about, I think, 70 to 80% complete. We've been having regular project team check-in meetings with OHM. We've also been working with private property owners to secure easements. We've got, had good conversations with Grand Traverse Academy, and also a lot of support from Alta Vista. They're actually putting like a connector from their property, building a kind of trail through the boardwalk through the wetlands, physical connection to the trail. We are, after the open house, we had a few residents that live next door to the trail with concerns just about screening and potential impacts. So we've met with those property owners and have been able to identify some solutions, screening, those types of things. So I think overall it's been a good process. And Julie and Elizabeth are here to talk about the funding piece. So I'll turn it over.
Thank you. Hi, Julie.
Hi, good evening. It's exciting to be here. I'm Julie Clark. It's been a while. I'm with TART Trails. I was asking Elizabeth, I'm like, I think we started this right before the shutdown, like the serious start, if I'm not mistaken. And here we are, 2024. So this is Trails for you. I'm going to put my glasses there in case I need them. So really happy to be here tonight. It is a big step forward at 70% design. There's been a lot of legwork done, both in the field and on a lot of different meetings with a lot of different folks. So tonight is a pretty simple first step forward, and that is we are looking for support for East Bay Township to request from the Road Commission that they serve as the applicant for one of the funding pieces that we'll need in order to construct, and that's the TAP application, or Transportation Alternatives Program. There's an overview before you. You're welcome to read that. In a nutshell, this is an MDOT program. It is a federally actually funded program that goes through MDOT. It's very similar to Safe Routes to School, in fact, comes from that same funding pot. And as with Safe Routes to School, the Road Commission is the eligible applicant. So you have to be an Act 51 agency in order to get these funds. It can't be a township or a nonprofit to apply for TART. It is a competitive program, so it is statewide. There are a limited number of funds available. So you have to work very hard to get these type of funds into your community. It's all about safe and comfortable alternative transportation, so biking, walking, transportation being the key element. We think this is an exciting project for this particular funding source because of the significant school and development opportunities that are situated along this, as well as the connection to the overall regional trail system. So grant funding, this is one of our larger grant sources. Typically, you know, I think the Boardman Lake Loop had a $800,000 TAP application, so minimum is $200,000 here. There's no maximum, but we'll talk about that later if we want to. You're not getting, you know, tens of millions out of this project, but it is possible to go over $1 million. So what makes this such a competitive program? Like I said, it is a statewide program. They get many, many more asks than they are able to obligate. So what will help set us apart in terms of our competitiveness and constructability? If you look at kind of all those bullets, I'm not going to go through them all, but we have been very closely working with MDOT through this entire project, with the Safe Routes to School project that's also run through MDOT, so they are very familiar with this area. You were very successful in your Safe Routes to School application. That helps as we go for these kinds of public dollars as well. It's important that it is connected to the type of development that we have nearby. Those are residential, commercial, schools, as well as being very familiar with this process. Locally, TART's been involved with these TAP applications for many, many years. Some good examples that exist today would be the Boardman Lake Loop. That was a recent TAP application. The TART itself and the iterations before, it used to be called other things. It's always gone with federal funding. ICE-T was the old name for it. And the Leelanau Trail was also a successful application. So we have pretty good experience here, and we have a very good MDOT staff who has been engaged with us throughout this entire planning process. The application and timeline, this is a lengthy process. Nothing moves very fast when it comes to federal funding. This is no exception. Elizabeth highlighted those dates there. We would hope to be ready to go for an application in February. That would mean that the engineering would be far enough along that we would feel comfortable that the estimates weren't going to fluctuate much, because once you put in that application, you really don't want those cost estimates to be wildly different by the time you come out. So we are far enough along that we think February would be a good application time. You can see that the funding decisions are several months down the road. We have multiple opportunities throughout the year, so if we don't meet February, there are other times that we could go in this year. So, budget, we'll talk a little bit about this, and I'll break it down for you as well. This is an expensive project. It is a big project. It is a lot of boardwalk. TAP is only eligible for the construction piece of this. It wouldn't cover engineering. It doesn't cover maintenance. It is targeted for construction. So it wouldn't, that construction budget includes items that would not be eligible for TAP. That includes construction administration. That's the engineering team leading this. Any easements that need to be paid for wouldn't come out of there. And of course, all the other funds I mentioned, the maintenance, conceptual design, none of that is TAP eligible. We like to do things in pie graphs. Maybe it's because we drive by that cherry pie every day at Sara Lee that gets us inspired, but it helps us break down how we approach big projects, how we are going to tackle this $12.5 million. It is a public-private partnership. So you can see on the pie graph, $5 million is anticipated coming from private funds. Public funds would be 7.5 is how we're anticipating that to be broken down. To date, $1.58 million has been raised. Of that, $680,000 and change is private, and then TART also secured a $900,000 federal appropriation. So we've got some of those slices of each of that pieces of pie there covered. So how we get to that budget is by multiple sources. So Transportation Alternative Program, TAP, which is what we're seeking moving forward tonight, is just one source of funding that we would be seeking. There's also Trust Fund, Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund, Land and Water Conservation, another Safe Routes to School application. We're going to explore Grand Traverse Band, local matches, obviously that's important, and we'll continue to seek federal and state funding as well as private. So we will pursue all federal grants and all state grants that are out there. New ones pop up every day. A lot of them are really difficult, but we're chasing them down. So TART is writing all the grant applications for this project, and we work closely with Claire to make sure that we can meet and deliver on those grants. The construction phasing, we are attempting to do this as all one. So 2026, 2027 is when we think construction would start and finish. The orange line that you see to the north, that's where the current 3-mile trail ends at South Airport, or just south of South Airport. It would continue down and then cross at Hammond. If funding sources or our state agencies give us feedback, hey, it's better in 2 phases, we do have a way to approach this project in 2 phases that have logical termini. So that's really important for us if we get that feedback from funders, or if successful fundraising is slower than we anticipate. We have a way to phase and make it a little bit more bite-sized. That's also assuming engineering. We are still, again, at that 70%, and we want to make sure that we can tackle this all at once. So if engineering comes back and says, hey, you know, we're still working on the Hammond section, we can concentrate north or south, as the case may be. So what would be next? If tonight you pass the resolution of support to go in January to the Road Commission to ask them to be the applicant, this will not be a surprise. We've been working with the Road Commission throughout this entire project. When we kicked off 3-mile conversations, gosh, Beth, what would that have been? 2015, 2016?
Oh,
Way back when.
2018.
Yeah, that's when, we started even having that. Their role, they are used to being an applicant for Safe Routes and for TAP. Again, the really only eligible applicants around here are going to be the city of Traverse City or Grand Traverse County for TAP funding. So they've been engaged with conversations. So we would go to them for their January board meeting to have them be the applicant, again, so we can be ready if a February application makes sense. And then we will be back before you in the spring for a trust fund and land and water conservation funding. In March, we would be coming for granting submittal approvals for their April 1st deadline. So again, we really try to package we seek every grant possible. There's not a rock that we're not willing to turn over to find this public funding in order to match the private that would come along with this. We'll also be before you in the spring and summer as we secure those easements. So TART's been working with some private landowners along the way to get the key pieces tidied up, and those have been great, and we hope to bring those to you for final signatures here later this spring, and then finalizing engineering. We've had some great public feedback, a lot of input, and a lot of work done, but we're not quite done, so we look forward to having some finalized documents that we would bring also for your review. And then, of course, continuing to seek those public funding opportunities. We'll just keep coming back as we find opportunities in the state and federal grant cycles. And that's it.
All right, very good. Well, thank you so much. This is a big project. This is a huge thing to tackle, and I've appreciated how much TART has partnered with us in making this bite-sized pieces for us. And you'll recall that we've been doing the engineering, we're contracted with the engineering for OHM, and TART is paying for that, so we're just kind of the pass-through for that, and they've been working diligently on that. Does anyone have questions for Julie on anything regarding this TAP application?
We have a resolution number. Nothing for Joe, sorry.
A resolution number?
1.
1. Huh. It was easy.
It's January.
Yeah, I went to go look it up, and I was like 39. I'm like, No, that's not right. Exactly, and that resolution is on page 61 of your packet.
No, I think it's exciting. I think that it can't come fast enough.
You and me both.
I know, I'm sure. You deal with it every day. But I know that there are a lot of people that I've talked to, not only at the open house, but just in my everyday life, that are excited about this connection coming. So I would make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-1 to support the Transportation Alternative Program Grant application.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Bartlett and support by Walters. Is there further discussion? Okay, Ann, we'll do a roll call vote.
Sure, Bartlett,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
S. Cortade,
Yes.
Lyle,
Yes.
M. Cortade,
No.
Cook,
Yes.
and Friend.
Yes. All right, very good, thank you. Julie, appreciate your work on this. Elizabeth, yours as well, thank you.
Yeah, it's Elizabeth and Claire and Chris Cushman, so go blue.
Okay, and with that, we will move on to the Parks and Rec 5-year plan that is before us. This was passed by the Parks Commission at the last meeting. They are updating their 5-year park and recreation plan. A lot of the grants, actually, that Julie was just talking about, will want to see this Parks and Rec plan in place. You must have it with the DNR trust fund. It needs to be to them by February 1st, 2024. You'll remember, seems like not that long ago, we did this recently before we were getting ready for the Holiday Woodlands grant application. So you do have a resolution in front of you. And as well, you have the draft as approved by the Parks Commission rec plan in front of you. Are there any comments or questions?
I've got a question on how many ballots were sent out? They got 70,
3.
I guess nobody had
So
it.
73.
These weren't sent out like the master plan. So the master plan actually mailed every township resident, and so that's why we had a couple hundred with that. With this, it was word of mouth through the media, story in the media. We also had signs at all of the parks, and that's how word got out from that.
Well, I guess I was kind of shocked that there was only 70, whatever it was,
Yeah.
72 or 76 people that even responded.
Sure, yeah. Actually, the one that we had from the master plan was a very good response considering, because sometimes the response can be quite low. I did have a comment, let's see, on page 103, at the last meeting, they did interject some verbiage at the last meeting with the public hearing. They had someone submit a letter that afternoon, and they added some things, most of which I don't have any issue with. There's one that I think we should take a look at. So if you're on page 103, you'll see under goals, that paragraph, the last sentence, balancing use with protection of natural resources is the goal, so that was added. And I think that that's, in my opinion, that's fine, because the total goal would be, I do think it's repetitive somewhat, but it says our highest priority among the many elements of our vision and for the township is the care for and sustainable use of our unique and highly valued natural features. And then they interjected balancing use with protection of natural resources is the goal. Then the 5 objectives that are listed, the last 3 were added. The first one is educate users and protect the resources. Well, let me start with the first 2. Create opportunities for all ages and abilities to use natural resources available within the township. That was in the first rec plan as well, or the previous rec plan as well. The second, maintain and enhance the existing park system while adding property to the system that provides an opportunity to protect vulnerable lands or add additional experiences. The next three were added at the last Parks Commission meeting. Educate users and protect the resources so that the resources will be sustained for humans to recreate while native animals and plants thrive and water and land quality are enhanced. The next, incorporate low-impact design and best management practices in park developments. And the last, promote responsible environmental stewardship. On the next page, page 104, under number 5, trail markers, trail maps, markers, and sign, you will see a sentence was added, the last one, and I'll read the full one. A consistent theme for all signage needs to be completed. Trails should be marked as they are developed for ease of use. Is previously where it ended. It was added educational signage to assist and encourage users to help sustain and enhance the parklands and their associated benefits. So that was the verbiage that was added at the last meeting. My input is I have no problem with all of these except for the objective that says incorporate low-impact design and best management practices in park developments. And the reason that I look for consideration of that is that, one, this is a park and rec plan that is supposed to be meant for all types of parks across the entire township. And I think that that puts a very narrow focus and limitation on things. And there's also no defined, there's no definition or mechanism of low-impact design. So, I mean, what does that mean? Not that we're planning on this, but would we put a splash pad here at the township hall like Blair Township has? That would maybe by many not be considered a low-impact design. And so I'm a little concerned about putting verbiage in like that for a wide array, a spectrum of uses and needs across all parks, across all townships. I do think that obviously low-impact design is most certainly things that they'll be looking at in the right parks and the right areas. But there may be other areas where that doesn't fit. So I think that in general, this rec plan just comes off of the old rec plan, has updated demographics, updated information on some of the parks, and I don't have personally any issues with it and think, kudos for the work that they've done, except I would suggest removing that one objective. And if they wanted to delve into something about low-impact design, they could do that in a more complete manner and add that as an amendment or as a separate task that they want to look at or something like that.
All I'd like to say is that I'm a bit disappointed that we don't have a park commissioner here to represent this. And it's their big plan. They should be here promoting it and selling it, for one. The plan's fine. The plan's fine just as it is. And, there's nothing in there that says this has to happen. It's just a kind of a guideline, so it really doesn't matter.
The appropriate boards were alerted of the project, so.
I get that. but
I mean, not of the project, of the meeting, of this being on the
I'm saying
agenda.
I'm just disappointed that they didn't take the time to come here to promote it like they have in the past.
Sure.
And I think that's gotten to be a trend, that they don't come to our meetings at all, and I think they need to. But I will make the motion to approve the East Bay Township 5-year Park and Recreation Plan as presented.
With support?
Or,
Okay, any other discussion?
I got a question.
Yes.
On these opportunities I look at that, and I go back to that 73 people or something, is it possible to put a questionnaire in with the taxes so every taxpayer gets one? and maybe we can really figure out what the residents of East Bay Township want in their park. I mean,
What's-
73 people it's almost embarrassing.
So I believe that this was in the parks, it might have been in the newsletter. Anyway, I can't recall if it was in the newsletter. It was on our website, on the main page of our website for quite some time. So,
Well, I just thought if there's some way to send something to all the taxpayers, if we don't get anything back, at least everybody had a chance. They didn't apparently go on the website. They sure didn't go to the parks and look at what was posted. That way we start getting what residents of East Bay Township want for their parks, not what 71 people.
Not just the squeaky wheels, a better cross-section.
Yeah.
so I know the signs were out there probably a good 4 to 6 weeks, and they were in all of the parks.
And they were here.
And they were here as well. You know, that is unfortunate, for sure. They also did have an open house that was noticed on the news media as well. Any other questions or discussion? Yes, Mindy?
I think that there is some problems with, on page 104, number 4, the Hammond Park Planning and Design. I think that sentence, I believe it should say the water tower property needs to have a master plan for future development. The way it's written to me
Needs
is
to be master
Grammar.
planned.
not well-written. And I would like to see objective number 4 with the low-impact development with no definition of what that is removed.
I would agree, because that's pretty ambiguous.
I guess I don't see the concern there. That's what I don't see.
Well, I feel that Grace McDonald Park is not a low-impact development. I think it's a pretty high-impact use of a property. And I think that if you look at the Pines, you're very much a low impact right now since nobody uses it, right? I feel like if you have a park that there's a lot of people and a lot of usage in the sledding hill and pickleball and tennis, that's a high impact use, and that's to me what a park can be for. I believe that there's other places that parks can be different, and with no definition of what is meant by this, I have a problem with somebody thinking that all of our parks are not going to be, we're not going to play basketball, we're not going to play football, we're not going to play, and that's how I see this because there's no definition of what it means.
Yeah, but that's not the way I see it. I see that it just says incorporate those designs, meaning if you're going to have a high-packed activity like a baseball field, you know, you don't just go out there and cut all the trees down and put in everything and concrete and whatever. You look at what you can do to minimize the impact on the environment when you do that. That's the way I see it.
Right, but you see it that way, and I don't, and there's no definition, so you're.
Well, there's no
what-
definition on a lot of stuff.
But what you're seeing and what I'm seeing could be the same,
Let's be serious.
the same thing, right? I would agree that that could be considered low, but I could see somebody saying it's not. And that's where my issue's at.
And that's the point I'm trying to draw out, is that it's very, very different. And the Parks Commission did not have a lot of time to delve into that. They received input at 4 o'clock, and they made the decision at 6 o'clock. And I would like to see them maybe look into that a little bit more and define it more, maybe have a definition, offer an amendment, or as I said, some other type of additional input.
So this could be amended with the added language and the definition of low-impact design?
It could be amended to add it, yes, after I think, after they've taken a look at it with some greater detail. The other thing is I think it would be important for us to come to an agreement on this parks plan and this resolution that supports this and passes this parks plan will be looked at by many grant sources. So it's very important to have substantial, if not universal support from this. So I think it would be really good to get something that we would have some agreement on. Yep, Sue?
Beth, I appreciate your concerns. My question is, have you had a discussion with the chair of the Park Commission to voice those concerns so they know that that is something that may or may not allow this to pass?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to talk to him since that meeting. I just finished watching their meeting recently. So I did get a chance to talk with Sarah Capriva about it today. And she said, you know, we have the ability to pass that with that in there or to take that out. There was quite a bit of discussion at it if you watched the meeting from the Parks Commission. So it was very interesting.
I guess I'm looking at it from the point of view that they are the elected commission. They're elected to do this. I would not want to blindside them if this is a document they're looking at. I'm almost wondering if we need to
Actually,
reject it and turn it back to them to have them look at it.
Well, that would make a lot of sense, except we don't have the time because it's a February 1st deadline. It has to be in for the grant cycles.
When is the next grant cycle? Is
A
it
year from-
September?
a year.
It's only just February 1.
Yep, of every year, yep. But actually, if you watch the meeting, and I don't know if anyone else here was able to see the meeting, but the blindsiding, I think, that happened was at that meeting.
Well, it sounds like it, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to duplicate that. I just, as an elected commission, this is what they have brought to this elected board.
So for many weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, they had out this without the verbiage and at meetings before, and no one on the commission changed it. And it was just brought forth on that one, the comment, which is fine. It's absolutely fine, but I don't think that they had the time, the scope to really take a look at that and see the far-reaching effects and how that may be interpreted from different funding sources, different, approval mechanisms, and across a real spectrum of different types of parks.
Kind of like we are right now. We haven't had much time to look it over.
Exactly.
So I get that. But they're the elected board. This is their plan. They're asking us just to approve it, just like we just did to go to the Grand Traverse County Road Commission and have them approve a plan that we're interested in having them approve. It's just basically a master plan, a rec plan that's there for funding. There's nothing in it that really says anybody that's looking for the funding that's going to say, oh, that's a red flag. And I don't see the problem. If this is what they wanted, this is what they should get. They are the elected board, as has been stated before, and I've said this before. I don't think we need to be interfering with what the people voted for. They voted them in to make these decisions, and that's where it should be.
Just a question, Mindy, you may know this or not, I don't know, but we're talking about the ambiguity of low-impact development. From an engineering standpoint, environmental engineering, isn't there some standards around stormwater management relative to lead?
I don't know. I know the best management practice, I know that all day long.
Right.
I've not heard low-impact development.
I've always heard of it referred to low-impact development relative to permeable surfaces, some of the nuances around rain gardens and stormwater management. If we're not going to take it out, I mean, is there an opportunity to define it here? Do we want to do that? Was there any context? I didn't watch the meeting. Was there any context to the comment that was made?
No, they really, I don't think they,
I'm trying to remember. I know there was a lot of discussion, and because I watched part of it today, I didn't get through all of it. I just know that there was a lot of discussion at that meeting, which is kind of what prompted me to look at it, because I heard rumblings. I know that, what was I going to say? It didn't, this letter that they got, it didn't suggest what that meant. It just kind of dropped it there and said they wanted it as part of the verbiage that went into this. And there was a lot of discussion about whether to put it in there or not. And there was discussion about the interpretation of, one person's interpretation of what it meant compared to another, like what we're having here. So,
Well, and if that is specifically to stormwater, it should go to our stormwater ordinance and
not
not be
the,
called out separately here.
yeah.
So
B and
when,
P is definitely a stormwater thing.
And that is one thing, I believe the consultant was concerned that this was getting outside the scope of your traditional rec plan.
when this was voted on by the Park Commission, since I did not watch it, was it unanimous?
No, there were 2 against it and 5 were for it.
I just think
You know,
the
if-
warrant's going back to them.
Well, unfortunately, timing-wise, it's
I know
tough.
you say that,
But again, what they can do is, we know, one thing we do know is that without these items, they agreed upon that, because they had way sufficient time, months, when they've taken a look at this, and had it out for public hearing, and received comments, and talked about it at earlier meetings, and they didn't have changes. So we know they agreed upon that. And most, 5 out of 7, agreed to put this in. You know, taking something like that out that causes concern doesn't negate what they did agree upon. And again, once they are able to, it gives the opportunity, Sue, to send that part back. They can always amend this. But then we have this to submit toward to the grant funders.
Are we still penciled in for a meeting on the 22nd of this month?
We are.
When's the Parks Commission meeting?
They meet next Monday. Well, Tuesday, they meet the 16th, because Monday's Martin Luther King Day is Monday. They're the 3rd.
Oh, okay.
If they passed the 2024 schedule for the 3rd Monday.
Yeah, they did, the 16th. It'll be on the 16th. Their meeting will be on the 16th. Yeah, we could do that.
On the 22nd.
It's on the 16th.
Just kick it back to them.
I think it's either pass it the way it is, which was their intent, or put it back to them and have them reiterate that that's what they want. But we do have a motion on the floor, I know that.
So the motion right now is to pass the resolution, and that would be 2024-2. Okay, and there's support for that. And is there any change to that, or no? Okay, then Ann will do a roll call vote.
M. Cortade,
Yes.
Lyle,
Yes.
Cook,
No.
S. Cortade,
Yes.
Bartlett,
No.
Walters,
No.
and Friend.
No.
Okay, it dies.
So with that, we will, is there a motion to return that to the Parks Commission?
I'll make a motion to send the 5-year Park and Rec plan back to the Parks Commission with the questions on a page, see without my glasses.
103
103, objective
and 104.
4, and 104, the number 4.
Right.
Yeah, we can change the wording on that and suggest that and note that to them, for sure.
Support.
Okay, that motion is made by Walters and supported by Cook. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
By no.
No.
Okay. Roll call vote, Ann?
Let's see, Walters.
Yes.
Who seconded that? Sorry.
Cook.
Cook.
Cook. Cook, what say you?
Yes.
Okay. Escorte,
Yes.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Lyle,
Yes.
M. Corte,
No,
and Friend.
Yes.
you know, it's not part of the motion, but can we also have someone proofread it? There's a lot of little mistakes in there that if you read
And
through it.
feel free to send any over too as well if you happen to notice them, but I will be happy to mention that. Okay, with that, we're at public comment. We don't have any public, but we do have some staff. Any public comment at this time? All right, our upcoming meeting dates, January 22nd, 2024, and February 12th is the next regular meeting. So it is 8 o'clock. Everybody go, enjoy the game, and, yeah, go blue.